Welcome to the Generational Run podcast, the podcast for the Yankees fans and the people who know ball. I'm your host, Mads. Tonight's episode is a little bit different because it is a recorded show versus our usual live show, and that is because tonight I have a very special guest joining me. I've been friends with this person for quite a while now, and more recently we've been diving into the current state of the Yankees, what they're doing well, what they need to work on, and just general banter about the team. And after all the discourse, I realized I just needed to have him on the show to talk Yankees. You might know him for his work with Fireside Yankees under the Empire Sports Media Company. So tonight, I'd like to welcome Ryan Garcia to the show.
How we doing? How we feeling?
Good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. Can't complain. Can't complain. We got, Yankee baseball's, I think, 12 days away from the day we're recording. So
Yeah.
feeling good about that.
Yeah. By the time I post this, it'll be 10 days.
Yeah, by the time you
So
post that, I'm gonna be
you'll be in
packing my
Florida.
luggage. No, I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna be packing my luggage and I'm gonna wait until Sunday probably. So yeah,
Perfect.
it'll
Last
be great.
minute. Always the way to go.
Absolutely.
All right. So first off, I want to do a little Q&A so everyone who doesn't know you can get to know you a little bit better. So my first question is, how did you get into baseball and become a Yankees fan?
Yeah, so my dad was a big time or is a big time Yankees fan, and I fell in love with baseball because of him. There are pictures of me when I was 1 years old watching the 2006 Yankees. There's a picture of me watching Yankees Angels in 2006. I think they lost that game. But yeah, I've been a big baseball guy for my whole life. Like, I don't remember a portion of my life where baseball didn't play a big role in it, whether it's watching it or playing Little League. I've always loved baseball and I've always loved the Yankees.
Yeah, me too. I now that you say that, I don't remember a time where baseball wasn't a part of my life, and I'm so grateful for that. And we're Yankees fans. It's just, you know, that environment is just so much fun. And the fan base is just so fun to be a part of. So my next question, did you have an aha moment in your career where you realized, yeah, this is what I want to do? Or have you always wanted to work in sports?
Yeah, I think honestly the aha moment was I was a freshman in high school. I did not make my varsity team. My freshman year of high school did not have a JV team. Uh, I'm not a good ball player, not a great ball player. That's why I'm doing media. But I saw a guy hit a ball like 400 feet with a wooden bat, and I was at that moment like, I'm not going to be a college ball player. I can't do that. And so I wanted to stay in baseball, and I started calling up a bunch of kind of like local newspapers. I didn't really know how media works. I just thought if you called enough of them, somebody would give you an internship, and somebody did. So I just went
Wow.
from there. Like I just kept at it. Like I always talked about baseball with my dad. I always talked about baseball with my family. Like I wouldn't shut up about it. So I was like, all right, let's try to make a career out of this. And here we are. That's my origin story. It's a pretty lame one, but it's my
No,
origin
it's
story.
good. I
I
mean,
don't
I
have like
post on
a
Twitter because, I my parents can only listen to me talk about baseball for so long. You got to talk to other people and get it out there. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I'm very grateful that I was as lucky as I am in the sense that the reason I ended up even at Fireside was I saw an article about Dellin Betances signing with the Mets in chemistry class. Like I was on my school laptop. I was just kind of like I was done my work. It was like the final 5 minutes, and I scrolled to the bottom. It said, "Click this link to join if you want to join." Like emailed like if you want to write here, and I was like, I want to write here. So emailed my boss, still my boss, Alex, and it's been I just this past winter was my 6th year. So yeah, so I ended up there. I was a sophomore. I was 15. Things happen in weird ways, and I'm
Yeah,
very fortunate.
that's cool. It's a very cool story. So, what is your favorite part about being a baseball content creator?
That is a great question. Probably the fact that I get to watch baseball and like say it's my job. So if I want to
Yeah.
drive on Thursday if I'm leaving my house on a Thursday in the middle of May at 1 p.m., it's not because I'm jobless, but for my job. Going to Somerset to go watch a baseball game and get some film and take some notes and like learn some things. And I think that's really cool. Watching the Yankees isn't just about being a fan, it's about learning things and trying to explain why things happen as the way they are. And I guess the best way to put this is the best thing about being a baseball content creator is that I get to enjoy baseball for work and interact with people who also love baseball just as much as I do, if not even more. So I think that's the best part of it. Like I get to be in baseball. This is sick. I love it.
Yeah, that's what I love about being online is because so many people want to hear what you have to say. And don't get me wrong, there is a lot of negativity, especially on Yankees Twitter, because they have the World Series or bust mentality. Um, but it's just so much fun to interact with people like on a daily basis and people are asking you questions. Oh, how do you feel about this? Do you think this player is going to stay on the team or are they going to go to AAA? Um, you know, all those kinds of different questions and just the interaction is so much fun because every day it's different. Um, if the Yankees have a walk-off win, everyone's super excited. If they lose or if they blow a game in the ninth, everyone's like pissed off about, well, why didn't you put this guy in? Why didn't you play this guy off the bench? Like, it's so different every day, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, I remember the Miami loss. I actually made a video, a very short video, about how the Yankees had put together a Super Bowl pen, and then the Miami game happened. So that was like that. That was fun, I guess. Like that was pretty cool. Um, I do think my favorite moment from like a Yankee game related social media interaction was I believe it was in 24 and no, it was in 22. Sorry. I tweeted out a video of me reacting to a Rizzo home run, and it did very well. And this was when I still wasn't like had my foot or like my mind set on doing this as a job.
Mhm.
It was the first time I saw the Yankees win in like 10 years, so it was sick. Like, and a lot of people were really happy, and I was like, oh, this is sick. Like, I should like be a little more forward facing in the content sense of things.
Yeah, and it's really fun. I absolutely love doing it every single day. So,
Yeah, absolutely. It's a blast.
yeah, for sure. All right, so now let's talk about the Yankees. So I want to talk about the comparison to the 2025 team. So we had come off of a World Series loss in 2024, made some really big moves that offseason. We didn't get Juan Soto, but you still signed Cody Bellinger, you signed Paul Goldschmidt, you got Devin Williams, who we entered spring training thinking that we had the best rotation in baseball, the best team in baseball. We were going to have a 1-2 Garrett Cole, Max Fried punch. We had Carlos Rodon and Clark Schmidt, who were going to be your number 3 and 4 guys. And then about 2 weeks into spring training, everything was ruined with injuries. We had no Garrett Cole. Clark Schmidt was not going to be ready for opening day. He was a little bit delayed. Looking back, they obviously knew that he was injured, but they didn't quite, come out and say it. So we were left with Max Fried and Carlos Rodon, who definitely stepped it up when they needed to. Um, we had Will Warren, who wasn't necessarily ready to come up, I don't think, but he definitely had some decent starts. I mean, he definitely did what he needed to do given the circumstances. And you also had Ryan Yarbrough, who was your number 4 guy. He gave us some good innings. He couldn't give us as much length as some of the other guys. But then the 5th spot was just someone being called up from AAA every 5 days and then being sent down. So not ideal. And I know you said you want to talk about the Garrett Cole injury.
Yeah. So we got back. So my first time in spring training was last year. Went down with Sam and we touched down in Tampa. We're there at our Airbnb for like 30 minutes to start, and boom, Garrett Cole's hurt. Well, we had known that he was hurt and undergoing an MRI, but it was official that he had torn his UCL. He was getting Tommy John surgery. So that was one heck of a way to start out being
Yeah.
in Tampa for the first time. And I can't even begin to describe how big of a blow it was for this team. I mean, obviously we'll get into it, but crazy way to kind of a wake up call. Like, hey, welcome to Tampa, baby. Garrett Cole's out for the whole year. It's like, at least we
Yeah.
got content. At least we got something to talk about, I guess.
Yeah. And then Luis Heel also got injured as well. So, we didn't have our rookie of the year either. So our
Yeah.
rotation was supposed to be so incredible, able to, dominate every team. And then it just basically blew up in our faces. Um, but the team still won 94 games. So I wanted to talk about that because it's people make this pitching rotation from last year. They make it out to be so horrible, so horrendous. They couldn't win. They lost every game from June to August, but they still produced 94 wins.
Yeah, this team was look, they were a roller coaster at times, but they won 94 games. They kind of did it in a similar way than they did in 24 in the sense that really good start to the year, really ugly summer, really good September. Unfortunately, they didn't parlay that to another trip to the World Series, but I do think last year's team, given all of the circumstances, was a lot better than I think a lot of people could have expected them to be. If you told me, okay, no Garrett Cole, no Luis Heel, and Cam Clark Schmidt, excuse me, not only would he be set back, but then would eventually tear his UCL in July when he
Yeah,
was one of the team's better starters. Told me all that on March 1st, I'd say, okay, that team went on to win 85 games or something like that. I'll be
right,
honest, like when Garrett Cole's UCL was torn, I was like, okay, this is not a World Series year. Like, I'll lower the
right.
expectations and I'm just going to hope that we get 30 plus starts of Will Warren to kind of let him develop, that we see certain guys come up and excite, Jason Dominguez, things of that nature. You remember Stan was hurt basically from the second guys reported to camp. So it was like, all right,
Yeah,
so Ben Rice shows up and does a job. So I don't think I really even entered the opening day with the expectation that this team would actually be contending for a World Series seriously. Now they're the Yankees, so it's World Series or bust. Like that's part of the
exactly.
mantra that they also say. So I'm not even going to sit here and say it's a fan base thing. So
Right.
it is disappointing that they didn't win the World Series, but in the same breath, like they went through a lot and still won 94 games, which is pretty impressive.
Right. And we still made it into the playoffs. We were fighting with Toronto until literally the last day of the season. We could have been we could have gotten the wild card like a week before that. They woke up middle end of August and they went on a hot streak in September. A streak where of I think it was 15 games, 12 or 15 games, where we're saying as long as you split the series in half, then you can still make a run for the postseason. They're fighting until the very last day. This could have been decided weeks before the end of the season, and some of the divisions were. Some of, the other National League divisions, some of the other American League divisions, they were decided way earlier. It was just I think the East that we were waiting on that very last day. And the second that Toronto took the lead of their game, we said, like, all right, there's our wild card series. Um, if we had made it past Toronto, I can't say we would have made it any farther than that. I think the team was gassed by the end of the year. Um, and they weren't hitting, they weren't pitching. That's not a World Series team.
Yeah, I think that this is where you missed Garrett Cole, and I'll even say, like I said this then and I'll say it again, like I don't feel like insecure to the point that I can't admit it. Like this is where you miss like a Juan Soto, where you have these star players who are able to in a playoff series completely change things with their appearances. Garrett Cole was a huge part of the Yankees getting to the World Series. He, I thought, pitched well enough to win both of his World Series starts. It's crazy that he didn't win either of them. The Yankees should have pulled off two more wins and been up 3-2 going into game six. That'll always haunt me, but it is what it is. Soto wasn't, I mean, how can you argue he wasn't instrumental to that 2014 getting to the
Exactly.
World Series? So that's where you do miss some of your star power. And I think, we'll get into this a little more as we talk about the rotation and comparing this year's team to last year's team, where you just kind of started missing that upper end, that top end roster talent that you had in 24. Was this a deeper team? Yes. I mean, no disrespect to some of the guys on the 2014, but like Alex Verdugo is no longer a major leaguer. Anthony Rizzo
Right.
is retired, right? Like the last game of Anthony Rizzo's career was game 5 of the World Series. He was our
Right.
starting first baseman. So kind of goes to show like the differences in depth, but you did miss your top end talent by the time you faced the Blue Jays.
Right. And I also think that Cam Schlittler played a huge part in that rotation. I do wonder a lot what would have happened in the postseason had Cam Schlittler not come up, or if he did come up, what if he didn't produce the way that he was producing? Because if I remember correctly, he was only supposed to make a couple starts for the team. But then he ended up really proving that he wanted to be here, putting up quality starts, and he really helped the rotation. And can't not talk about that one game against Boston where he pitched 8 innings. Um, he locked it down. He really did exactly what he needed to do, and now we get a full year of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I might like, maybe this is hot take central. I mean, I've been pretty consistent about this one. I think Cam Schlittler is going to get some Cy Young votes this year. I think he's
I think he
one
will
of
too.
I think he's one of the best pitchers in the American League. From August onward, he was the 13th best pitcher in baseball. His stuff in spring training has improved. He split the slider or the cutter, excuse me, into a cutter and a slider. That hard cutter shape is actually very similar to the one that Corbin Burnes throws, and Corbin Burnes, one of the best cutters I've ever seen in my lifetime. You look at the depth of arsenal, it's improved. The upper end velocity is elite. I think his ability to throw strikes has improved throughout the course of his pro career. And if you look at him in the postseason, he started mixing it up a little more, fewer four-seam fastballs, more sinkers and cutters and
Right.
curveballs. If he can keep doing that in the regular season, I think we're looking at a guy who can give you 30 plus starts, 180 plus innings, strike out 200 plus batters, give you an ERA of like 3.3. That guy is going to go get Cy Young votes. I'm not saying he's going to win it. Tarek Skubal's still there. Garrett Crochet's
Right.
still there. Can't forget that Max Fried's one of the 10 best pitchers in the sport. So I think there's going to be guys who finish ahead of him, but I think he's going to be somewhere in that top 10 of the ballot.
Just even to get those votes is impressive, especially,
Absolutely.
this is his first full year in the majors. So for him to accomplish that would be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I think he's immensely talented. I don't think Yankee fans are always going to like, I think there's like a little bit of hesitancy to buy in because there's a good track record of some guys, not just on the Yankees, but in baseball who hot starts to their careers, injuries hit them, things derail them, and they're never the same again. Alek Manoah is probably the best example of this, where the guy looked like a future Cy Young winner, and then his stuff deteriorated after injuries and maybe not the best conditioning. I mean, the various factors there, but I think Schlittler has both the makeup and the on like the actual talent itself. I've heard nothing but good things about him as a worker, his demeanor. I mean, we saw it in the postseason game. I think those things did speak a lot to the Yankees and their faith in him very early on.
Yeah, for sure. So that was really good, like a good, debrief of the 2025 team. So I think I want to start comparing to the 2026 team. So like we said, even with all of the injuries and all the problems that we had with our rotation, the team still won 94 games. So it's not a bad record considering the circumstances. But I think this year we're already starting with a semi-dominant rotation. You have Max Fried, you have Luis Heel, who is definitely, back from injury. I think he had a couple of rocky starts last year coming back. But I'm thinking he's going to be good now, just everything that I've seen in spring training. You also have Cam Schlittler, you have Ryan Weathers, and Will Warren with some depth options of Ryan Yarbrough, Elmer Rodriguez possibly, and Paul Blackburn. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the rotation, it's in a better spot than I think it was this point last year, because this point last year, Cole down, Heel down, Schmidt kind of a question mark. So definitely better than where it was at this point last year. I think the biggest thing I like about this rotation is the upside, just the raw stuff in this rotation. Fried's pitch grades have improved a lot since coming over to the Yankees. There's some really good work on The Athletic. Saras did an article or does a podcast for The Athletic where he talked about some of the biomechanical changes, some real like in the weeds stuff that the Yankees have had with him, and he's gained so much pitch quality as a result. Cam Schlittler, we just talked about him. Luis Heel, look, there's still that upper end upside of, can this guy be a top of the rotation or at least a
Right.
frontline starting pitcher? He's going to have to prove that the command is going to be there and that the velocity is going to get there, which hasn't been there just yet. But there is the possibility that he goes back to being 24, Luis Heel. For Warren, he's had a really strong spring. His pitch quality has improved a ton. And Ryan Weathers, I know the ERA has not looked good in spring training, but I stand very firm that I'm very impressed with what I've seen. He's throwing hard. His changeup looks good.
Yes, me
Two
too.
sliders. I'm a fan of the upside here. Guys could get hurt, but I'm a fan.
I definitely am too. And I think if these five guys of the rotation can hold it down until early May when Carlos Rodon comes back, I think it's first week of May. I think he's actually progressing quickly in his rehab and everything. So there's one reinforcement right there, and then one of the guys in the starting rotation maybe go over to the bullpen. And then if that rotation can hold it down for another month, then you have Garrett Cole coming back in June as another reinforcement. Now, you don't necessarily know, is he going to be the same Garrett Cole that was pitching in 2024? You don't know after Tommy John surgery, but from all the bullpens that he's thrown and what we've seen so far, it looks encouraging.
I think with Garrett Cole, what stands out to me is just we are I think the bullpen he threw was exactly 365 days after he officially underwent Tommy John surgery.
Yes, I think you're
He's
right.
he's sitting 96. He
Yes.
sat 96 in 2024. Like this is a pretty significant development. We're not even
Yeah.
in the okay, he's 14 months post operation. Now you expect the velocity to be back. We are not even in the window. It's 14 to 18 months for those who don't know at home. The typical recovery window, or at least the medically advised recovery window for guys coming back from Tommy John. There was some discourse that he maybe got the abbreviated one, but no, he had a full UCL reconstruction surgery. It was a clean rupture of the tendon. So like the ligament, excuse me. This was a severe injury, and he is at the point where his velocity has not taken a hit at all. I maybe it's a hot take. Maybe it's a hot take. I'm not intentionally trying to do this. I've said some of these things before, but like I'm a believer in this. I think if Garrett Cole's sitting 96, like sign me up. Okay, so game one starter, cool, boom, great, awesome. Like he's back. Like he's gonna look as good as he did in 24, in 23. I'm not saying he's gonna strike out as many batters as he did prior to 23. He used to run like 30+% strikeout rates, but
Right.
show me a reason to doubt Garrett Cole, right? Like that's where I'm at with him.
Exactly.
This guy, no one understands their body or pitching more than this guy. So until I have no reason to doubt him until he gives me a reason because of where the velo's at right now.
Right. And I think if you look back at last year, just him in the dugout talking with the younger guys, you can tell how bad he wanted to come back. Anytime he was interviewed, it was, I can't wait to get back out there. I can't throw a ball yet, but I'm doing it in my dreams or something. I think that was something that stuck out to me. He's like, he was so ready to come back. He's definitely working as hard as he can towards it. And like you said, nobody knows their body as a pitcher like Garrett Cole does. He knows when he's ready to come back. Because any guy who has surgery, they want to be ready to rock and roll, a week post-op. They want to get back on the field. That's all they want to do. But if you do that, you risk, potentially hurting yourself again. But Garrett Cole, he knows his stuff. He knows when he's ready to come back. And I think as soon as he's eligible to come back, I really do think he will. And like you said, the velocity is doing that. Throwing 96 is crazy for, being still so close to the time that he had his surgery. Um, so I think if all goes well with him, we're going to have probably one of the best rotations, if not the best rotation in baseball. And, when we get Clark Schmidt back, again, you don't know what he's going to be like, but it's definitely, I'm thinking it's going to be a reinforcement. We'll have to see when he, starts pitching again, because he did get surgery a little bit after Garrett Cole. So he's still, kind of in the earlier stages. But you're looking at a possible rotation from the middle to the end of the season where Cam Schlittler is one of your back end starters,
Yeah,
which is
and
crazy.
that's nuts. It's crazy. Yeah. And you talked about like the experience that Cole has and the way he kind of can send information down to younger guys. Actually, I was reading this from Greg Joyce of the New York Post. Cam Schlittler splitting his cutter into a firm cutter and a slider.
Hmm.
He learned that from Garrett Cole.
Hmm.
I'm going to tell you right now that cutter's we use a 20/80 scale in baseball for those who are, at home and don't know what that is. I'm going to reference it here. Like that cutter's a 7. That cutter's a 70 grade pitch. That's a double plus pitch. There are I'm a very strict grader. 70 is insane. Like this is the effect that Garrett Cole has. I think Luke Weaver also fixed his four seamer because of Garrett Cole. I remember
Hmm.
reading about that.
I think so
I
too.
think it's
Yeah.
25 or 24, but that's the effect of Garrett Cole. He's that guy. He is that guy.
Yeah. And I think I've also seen interviews. I've read things of he was very good to Will Warren, who, like we mentioned before, maybe wasn't ready to come up last year, but he certainly stepped up when he needed to. But if everyone was healthy, he definitely wasn't making the roster that year. Um, and he would, anytime Will Warren would go back into the dugout, in between innings, Garrett Cole would be giving him advice. And I do remember an interview where Will Warren was like, "Yeah, I was mad," like, and he was trying to talk to me, and like I just wasn't listening to anything he said. But once I cooled down, I went and we had a conversation and worked it out. What can I do better? How can I improve this? All of that. And I think that it's just really valuable to have that on the team. And I think even though Garrett Cole obviously didn't pitch an entire season, he still had a huge impact on all of the younger guys who had to come up and really step up in place of that, which is really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, to kind of give my final input on that, I think it's incredible to have like Andy Pettit in the dugout. Max Fried is a guy who is a veteran in this league, has won a World Series, has been, I mean, a top 10 pitcher for the majority of this decade, if not the entirety of this decade. So
Yeah.
just gobs of pitching experience. Matt Blake is incredible at his job. Sam Breen, the director of pitching, incredible at his job. They got their lead pitch design guy back from the Mets, Desi Druschel. I think he's one of the smartest guys in baseball. You look at that Yankee dugout and you look at that Yankee pitching development apparatus, it is, I think, the best in baseball. I'll take that group over anybody when you factor in the experience and the vets they have there.
Yeah, and I think that can go for not just pitching. I think you can apply that to position players too. I think the Yankees organization always does a really good job at having those veteran guys on the team as well. You have Judge, who's obviously a leader in any clubhouse he's in. Anyone will tell you that. But you also have Stanton, who's played for a long time. You have, Cody Bellinger. You have Paul Goldschmidt, who took a deal knowing he was going to be a bench player. Because I think to him, giving the younger guys that experience and his wisdom and knowledge was more important than playing 162 games. So, I mean, it applies to pitching and position players. I think it's really good to have that dynamic. And your entire infield, you have Ben Rice, Jazz, you have Volpe, Ryan McMahon, and Wells behind the plate. They're all younger guys who need, the coaching and the advice. And I think they can really learn a lot from the older guys, the veterans on the team.
Yeah, and I think on the point of Goldschmidt first and foremost, because we talked about we were talking about some weather before this. Paul Goldschmidt turned down an opportunity to start in San Diego and was like, "I'm going to live in New York for another year, and I'll deal with this crappy weather in April, and I'll be a bench guy. Like I'm going to sit on the bench when it's 40 degrees instead of being out on the field when it's 70 and sunny in San Diego.
Yeah.
Like that's commitment, man. Look, I love New York. I grew up in New York. I've never lived anywhere outside of the state of New York. I'll say this right now. If somebody offered me a raise and a greater role to go live in San Diego, I'm taking it right now. And I've told my boss this because we were talking about the Goldschmidt stuff. I was like, you want to give me a raise and a greater role, but you tell me I got to live in San Diego? You tell me where I'll sign. I'll move across the
Yeah.
country today. But yeah, I mean, he's obviously a great leader to have. Judge is a leader. I mean, he's gotten so much crap because of the World Baseball Classic stuff, which we'll get into a bit. This guy's an incredible leader. I mean, think of all the personalities and people that have been absorbed in this dugout. They bring in so many different kinds of people. Like let's look at the Verdugo Stroman offseason. They brought both these guys in, kind of very well known for being problematic in the dugout. Verdugo and Cora kind of had to be. Verdugo called out Alex Cora indirectly in his introductory press conference. Marcus Stroman called out the GM of the New York Yankees. I mean, these guys were kind of known. I don't want to use the word malcontents, but they were known for being potentially a little bit disruptive in a clubhouse or being outspoken in ways that could bring negative PR to a team. Didn't hear a peep from him. Didn't hear us. Marcus Stroman got cut by the Yankees. I haven't seen him tweet anything bad about the Yankees.
He posted the picture on the jet with the watch, and he was like, "I'm out," and you haven't heard from him since.
And you know what, man? Totally fair, dude. Yeah, you know what? You're rich, you got money, and you're getting paid to not play baseball. That's totally, you know what, man? Flex for you, man. I wish. Yeah. I think everyone would take the deal of get paid $8 million over the remainder of your contract to sit at home. That's dope. That's great. Good for you, man. Josh Donaldson is kind of a known malcontent in a sense. He antagonized the ace of the New York Yankees and less than a year later was a New York Yankee. Aaron Judge's ability to kind of keep these things internal and not let these guys or let these issues seep out. I'm sure there are issues. We just never really hear of them. That speaks to Aaron Judge's leadership. And this is New York. If a story, look at the Mets. I'm not saying this in an insulting way, but every little clubhouse issue that could have occurred last year came to light in some capacity, whether it's a former player speaking out, whether it's reporters finding out that Lindor didn't like McNeil and Nimmo and Lindor were fighting over who the captain should be. And I know people are going to say, oh, that's all tabloids. They traded Nimmo. They traded McNeil. They didn't bring back Alonso. I think they made it pretty clear, hey, we need to fix up this clubhouse. So when things are going wrong, they'll come out in New York, but it doesn't seem like that's happened to the Yankees. I think Judge is a big reason for that.
Right, exactly. I think he's, like I said, a leader in every clubhouse that he's in. Even though he hasn't been doing the best in the World Baseball Classic, I think they still look up to him. And I think you're right. He does a really good job about, keeping everything kind of internal. And, New York is the big lights. You're under the bright lights. Everything gets out. So it's a good thing that it's, kind of everything's kind of kept under wraps. in that sense.
Yeah, you go 0 for 3, you got a moron like me saying, "Hey, this guy's got to play better." Like like it's New York. You've got millions of people watching. Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's going to talk about you. If you're Aaron Judge specifically, you're 6'7", dude. You can't hide in New York. You
Yeah.
can't like take the subway and be like, "Ah, no one's going to notice me." You take the subway, it's be like, "Is that Aaron Judge?" Like,
Yeah.
Well, he did do one thing that might help him, and it was I forget what year it was, but he had a gap in his teeth and he fixed it. And that I
Yeah.
think is going to make it a little easier for him to stick, not stick out too much because he had the height, the gap, kind of Michael Strahan esque.
Yeah.
And now he's just really tall and the best player in baseball. So still pretty
Yeah.
easy to spot out.
Yeah. So that brings me to my question. Just comparing the two teams from last year so far, do you think we need to be as worried as people on Twitter are making it out to be?
Okay, so I think my answer to this is like I'm pretty confident saying this year's roster is better than last year's roster after the injuries. Like, if you want to tell me, hey, if we had Garrett Cole without the question of how he's going to look after Tommy John surgery and knowing what we know about now about Rodon, yeah, I think last year's team would have been better than this year's team with just like a not question mark Garrett Cole on it. But that didn't happen, so I can't tell the story that way. Carlos Carrasco, Alan Winans, and Marcus Stroman made enough starts for this team as a trio that I don't need to see in 2026. And I think that's going to help. Also, third base. Like, I'm not saying Ryan McMahon is the greatest thing since sliced bread, nor am I going to sit here and suggest that Ahmed Rosario is the difference between this team winning 94 games and this team winning 100 games. But like Oswald Peraza and Pablo Reyes were the starting third baseman. They made the roster, both of them. They were fighting for one spot, and then they both
Mhm.
made the roster because DJ LeMahieu got hurt. Not to disparage any of these players as people. None of these players were particularly good at baseball at this point in their careers. None of these players were major league starters for a World Series contender. How do we know this? Oswald Peraza is on the Angels now. He plays first base. Pablo Reyes is in an international league, and DJ LeMahieu has not been picked up. So proof's in the pudding. Nobody in baseball thinks these guys are starters on championship contenders. The Yankees had them as starters on a championship contender. Heavy quotation marks on that being a thing that you can call yourself when they start for your team.
Yeah, that was a good point because I wanted to segue into more of the addition by subtraction idea. So obviously, not a lot of people are thrilled that we're quote unquote running it back, but we're not running it back as much as I think people think we are because you don't have Devin Williams anymore, who blew how many starts? You don't have Luke Weaver anymore. You don't have Mark Leiter. No Ian Hamilton. You said Carlos Carrasco. I didn't wasn't even thinking about him. It feels like it was forever ago. And you had DJ LeMahieu come back from injury eventually. He was playing second, so they made Jazz play third. That's not his position. Think about how many moves they made that were just they were just hurting themselves. It was going to blow up in their faces. And like you said, you had Oswald Peraza playing third. You had Pablo Reyes playing third. You had Stroman starting. None of these guys are on the team anymore. If you think about how many games that those players alone cost you, it's crazy. So yes, I think we're running it back, kind of, but not as much as people are making it out to be.
I think yes, in the sense that like, especially with the bullpen. The bullpen was bad last year from a result
Mhm.
standpoint. They should have been better based on the talent in the room. And based on the talent in the room, yes, the names on last year's bullpen I think are better than the names in this year's bullpen. Devin Williams going into 2025 was a top like 3 reliever at worst in all of baseball. He might have been the best reliever in baseball. And I think I would have argued for it at the time, not even just because he was a Yankee, just because he had never been bad at Major League Baseball in his life. He, of course, was bad the one year he was a New York Yankee.
Mhm.
Luke Weaver was hurt, and then like it came out that he came back sooner than he should have, and it's unsure if the Yankees really even wanted that or if Weaver was kind of insistent on it. That's like a whole other thing. We'll never really know the full story. And then you get into the weeds of it. Mark Leiter Jr. started off the year pretty solid. Then he has a knee injury and he comes back and he's not very good. Tim Hill struggled for portions of the year. I mean, the bullpen just couldn't find an identity for years
Right.
for weeks. And this year's bullpen's, I think, less talented than last year's bullpen at the point in which they entered the postseason. But I think this year's bullpen will perform better than last year's bullpen because last year's bullpen dealt with poor luck, some unexpectedly bad outcomes, and bullpens are also hard to predict. Like, talking about
Right.
60 innings, anything that happened in 60 innings. I mean, we've watched baseball for long enough to see like Clay Holmes go from the greatest reliever of all time to absolutely terrible to losing his closing job to then being reliable in the postseason in 24 again, which sure, like that just happens. Mark Lear Jr. was getting big outs in the ALCS after being absolutely terrible in 2024.
Right.
Relievers are unpredictable. No one knows what's going to happen with them. I think they have talent in this group, and I think that there is going to be a lot of addition by subtraction from last year to this year.
Right. And like I said, we have a bunch of pitchers who they're kind of staggering back off of injury. So some of those starters are likely going to move to the bullpen when some of the bigger names come back. There's also talk about Carlos Legrand possibly being a guy who you can use out of the bullpen this year. So what do you think about that?
Can I again? I did not intend on like having these many hot takes. I'm going to be honest with you. Carlos Grande should be like a top 40 prospect in the sport. This guy's got like the best stuff in minor league baseball. It's not even like a subjective thing. I think Baseball America's stuff quality model had him as the number one prospect last year in just pure like pitch grades, velocity, shape, things of that nature. Um, Carlos Legrand rocks. I think he can do it as a starter, but given the construction of this roster and the perceived depth you're going to have on paper, knock on wood, there. I think that Carlos Legrand out of the bullpen in like July, let's say, like I would be
Mhm.
stunned if July rolls by. Legrand has been healthy all year and he's not in the bullpen or like in the rotation even because he's super talented. He's sitting 100.5 miles per hour.
Yeah,
He
it's
just had an
crazy.
appearance. Yeah, he just had an appearance where he didn't throw a single fastball below 100.1. You can't teach that. That's outlier velocity. Again, you want to do 20/80. That's 80 grade. That's one of one. Nobody can match that. There's quite literally only one person in the history of the pitch tracking era since we've been able to accurately measure velocity. Only one person has done the whole, all right, I'm going to throw as many pitches as Legrand did in that outing and throw as hard as Legrand did in that outing. It's literally outlier stuff. And oh yeah, he's got a plus changeup, plus sweeper, plus slider that's kind of a cutter because he throws it so hard. I mean, he's throwing a 91 mile per hour slider. It's ridiculous. He's ridiculous. It is insane that he is as good as he is. Like I saw him. I got to see him live last year in spring training because he pitched the spring breakout game. When I saw
Mhm.
103 on the radar gun, I was like, all right, cool. Write down on the notes app. Keep an eye on this guy. I'm gonna go watch him in Somerset at some point this year, and I did. And I mean, he's better than he was last year. He was sitting 98 last year. He's better than that. So he
Yeah.
blows me away. I have nothing but good things to say. Oh, he can't command. Oh no, he might walk 10% of batters faced. The horror. Oh no, like I don't care. He throws 100. I don't care. Maybe that's like the there's like the very nerdy. I'm a big baseball nerd, and then there's like the like just there's something in my brain that it scratches an itch of he throws 100. Don't overthink this. Do not overthink this. He throws really hard. Get him on your team at some point this year.
Yeah, and I think I've seen in the interviews, he just wants to win. He wants to do whatever he can to help the team. And I think, yeah, he would be really, really great out of the bullpen. I would love if they called him up, midway through the year. I think he has the chance to make a really big impact on the team. And I mean, who knows? Are we going to have a summer swoon again this year? Is he going to be the piece that, kind of breaks that cycle or stops that from happening or, snaps us out of it? You don't know, but you have to hope that he gets the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like I'm not sitting here and guaranteeing he's gonna be a star or anything. Injuries can happen.
Right.
You can have a great start to your career and it just doesn't materialize. You can kind of have the Sevy route of be a superstar for a couple of years and then injuries eat you up, and then you're on the athletics and you don't pitch very well. I think Carlos Legrand is just sick. I think he rocks. He might be the best prospect in the organization. Like you don't see talent like that, and I'm blown away. He's way better than I thought he was going to be. Like I thought he was a top 100 prospect, way better than even I thought he was going to be. And I was the high man on him going into this year.
Yeah. So Spencer Jones already got options to minor league camp. What do you think they're going to do with Jason Dominguez? Because I think with people coming back from the WBC mid to late next week, no matter the outcome, I think they're going to start making even more moves because all these guys, all the guys are coming back. So you don't need some of these other people on the team. What do you think they're going to do with him?
So with Jason Dominguez, I do think he'll start the year in AAA, but that isn't contingent on one thing. If John Carlos Stanton gets hurt at any point between now and opening day, knock on wood again, Jason Dominguez is going to come up. Jason Dominguez is clearly their best like insurance policy if Giancarlo Stanton goes down. And I'm a pretty staunch believer that they should have brought in two outfielders to start this year. I didn't feel comfortable with Bellinger being the starting center fielder and Dominguez being the starting left fielder. I don't know if Bellinger still has it in center field. And Jason's obviously not a great defensive left fielder, and I don't think you should have to force that situation. Jason has a chance to be a good ball player this year. He hit righties really well, makes a good amount of contact in zone. He hits the ball pretty hard, and he makes good swing decisions. So you put those three things together, and kind of my rule of thumb with hitters, if you make good swing decisions, if you make good contact, you make contact pretty often, I think you're good. Like, I just think you're going to be a good hitter. Whether he's going to be a good enough defender to make it worth it or not long term, who knows? But he's a really good base runner. He's a very hard worker. And probably the biggest thing here with me is that, like, kills righties. He's a career, I think, 120 OPS plus guy against righties. Not like we're talking about a guy who has to, like, prove himself. He's probably more ahead than, like, Ben Rice was entering last year. Granted, Rice had an incredible offseason. He took massive skill leaps, but, like, Jason Dominguez is a big leaguer. There's just more big leaguers on this team than usual. So, yeah.
Yeah, right. And I think his performance in spring training so far has looked really promising. And I know that spring training numbers don't always mean the same as the regular season numbers, but I think from what I've seen, it looks very encouraging. And I hope he makes a big impact because, he used to be the top prospect and everything, and then he didn't get playing time, and then the defense was bad and they wouldn't play him. And he had one start in the entire postseason last year. Like you said, he's a guy who he's going to have a big impact. He doesn't have to prove himself. He already has, but he's on a team that has a lot of big leaguers who are going to take priority over him.
Yeah, and since when has depth been a bad thing? Like, how many times we've lost Giancarlo Stanton, and it's like, who's DHing? Right. JD Davis hit fourth for this team in 2024. Like, I'm okay with the fact that we have depth. And on the final note of Jason Dominguez and kind of the spring training stuff, a good rule of thumb for spring training, if a guy's hitting well and he's on your favorite team, it matters. If he's not hitting well and he's on your favorite team, it doesn't matter. Now, I'm joking, but like he does, some guys lose their luster as a prospect or their status as a starter, and they just take their ball home, and it's like, all right, whatever, I guess I don't care. Jason, he's shown up, he's done the work, he's put in the work. If he stays engaged in controlling what he can control, which is his performance, the reps will come, and his time to be a starter will follow alongside it.
Yeah. So I do want to talk about the WBC, but before I do that, I want to ask you, what are you looking forward to most this season? And do you think that this team could go all the way? And if you don't think they could go all the way, how far do you think they're going to go?
Okay, thing I'm looking most forward to. This was a tough one. I had to really narrow it down because I just went on a whole tangent of how awesome I think LaGrange is. He's a good pick for this. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna say Garrett Cole coming back. I mean, look, let me be frank with you guys.
Yeah.
This was close. I was thinking Ben Rice, Aaron Judge. It's Aaron Judge, right? But I miss Garrett Cole. I miss him.
Do too.
I miss him so much. He's like my favorite pitcher I've ever watched. He's so awesome. Watching him pitches like watching an artist at work, and you just kind of have to just sit back and enjoy the process of it. It's not just, oh, he has a good ERA and he strikes out everybody. It's like, just watch how he does it. It's really beautiful to watch. So that, and I think they can win the World Series. I mean, I think they're one of the better teams in the American League. Anybody who tells you that the Yankees cannot, there's a difference between will not or I don't think they will and cannot. Cannot says that there is no world where this team wins the World Series. Anyone telling you that is lying to you. They can't prove that this team has a 0% chance of winning the World Series. Not saying that you have to think they're going to do it, but they absolutely can. And anyone telling you otherwise is just kind of really deep in the doomer thing or just trying to set the bar low so that they don't get disappointed if they don't. And there's a better than 50% chance they don't win the World Series. It's true for every team, including the Dodgers. Every team's got a better than 50% chance of not winning the World Series. Question is, are you going to get lucky? Are you going to have things go your way? We'll see. Yeah. It's a long year. We'll see. I mean, things are going to change a lot from now and May. So we'll see.
Yeah. I just think if we do win the World Series, it would be the most incredible comeback story. Just, from what we've talked about, comparing the two teams from last year and this year. And Garrett Cole comes back, Carlos Rodon comes back. You have all these healthy guys and, they win a chip. So
yeah,
it would be really exciting.
Yeah. They won a World Series championship. I mean, I think I'd cry. I'm gonna cry. I'll cry. It'll be an incredibly emotional moment, but also I would be really happy for a lot of the veterans on this team, like
Me
Giancarlo
too.
Stanton, Aaron Judge, just the weight off your shoulders, knowing that they're not going to be ringless when they retire would be really nice to know. So more happy for them than myself in
Right.
that
Yeah,
scenario.
me too. Yeah. All right. So let's get into a little bit of the World Baseball Classic, and then I have some fun bonus questions for you at the end. So USA barely made it out of the pool play. And I think this was a team that everyone said, yep, they're gonna go undefeated. They're gonna win the whole thing. They were relying on the Italy-Mexico game to find out if they were gonna make it to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's say it for what it is. Like crazy upset that Italy beat the United States. Look, the United States advanced so they can bury this story by winning the whole thing, and I actually think they have a really good shot at doing that. But oh my gosh, what an embarrassing saga to have your manager not know what's going on. I mean, look, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that managing is easy at any level or any capacity because you still have to deal with a lot of people and personalities and in a short period of time get them all to mesh and not bicker with each other or hate each other or kind of just know what their tendencies are. But let me say this right now. I think every manager in baseball would trade their job for the job of managing 26 All-Stars. I mean, the greatest
Yeah.
team ever assembled. This team would project to win like 130 games in even those conservative models. If they were a Major League Baseball team, they might actually have a better than 50% chance of winning the World Series if
Yeah.
they were a Major League Baseball team. Come on, like it's not hard to figure it out too if you really study. It's not like it's like somebody asked them, all right, which scenarios are the United States going to move on in? You could just say like, all right, like, are we moving on or are we not? That's all you have to know. All you have to know is whether that game's going to clinch or not clinch. All you have to know is that runs allowed minus outs is the tiebreaker outside of head-to-head stuff. It's not hard to know when that's your only managerial job and you only do it for like 2 weeks. And very importantly, like you don't even have to worry about the lineup. Like I didn't like the lineup decisions, but like, shoot, they should have probably beaten Italy with that lineup. They scored 6 runs, and they didn't even have their best guys. And Aaron Judge went over 4, and Bryce Harper hasn't hit all postseason, all World Baseball Classic. Things went wrong, and they still scored 6 runs. It's the easiest job in the world. Just know the rules. That's all I'm asking. Just know the rules.
Yeah, and I think I was less upset at the comment he made. I was more upset that nobody followed up to it.
I
I
mean,
remember the next morning because that game was I fell asleep towards the end. I was like, you know what, this is just bad. I woke up the next morning and I saw the interview video and DeRosa was like, yeah, I thought we had already, you know, locked our spot for the quarterfinals. And there was just nothing, no follow-up to that. I'm like, how did not one reporter say, what do you mean you didn't know?
yeah, the thing that I don't understand is, okay, he says, I think his thing was like, oh, I knew by the time we knew, I misspoke. First and foremost, you've got to ask the question, okay, at what point did you know that Team USA had not advanced? And if the answer to that question was in the morning or I did not know until 1 o'clock, that's horrible because that means that every single player spent the night thinking he had clinched, which we have confirmation of because Mark DeRosa in the same press conference where he's like, no, it was just a misspeak. No. He's like, yeah, some of the guys were dragging a little. They had some beers, they're hanging around. It's like, why were they doing that? They hadn't,
Yeah.
unless of course they thought they clinched. That is the kind of thing you do when you think you clinched. There's like the hangover lineup. After a team clinches, usually the lineup the next day kind of stinks. I think of when Anthony Rizzo managed the Yankees the day after they won the division in Toronto. I think of in Seattle, Jazz Chisholm was videoed drinking like in obscene manners, which not saying that in a bad way, just saying like very openly drunk on after they clinched the playoff spot and then playing the next day. He had a home run the next day, which is pretty impressive. But like, you know your hangover lineups. You understand in certain circumstances, and I have nothing wrong with bottle popping, even the smallest things. You advance, you haven't won it yet, that's fine. Like celebrate these moments because why not? Like enjoy life. Like I'm a big believer in like just go live your life, go have some fun. But there's a time and a place. And Mark DeRosa dropped the ball, and I would have appreciated just saying, "Hey, I screwed up. Unacceptable. It's on me. This can't happen." Because everyone knows you screwed up, and you're just telling me, no, I didn't. Nah. It's like if I get caught stealing, the machine at the grocery store is buzzing. I have the receipt in my hand that says I didn't pay for it. I'm just like, I didn't steal it. I
Exactly.
paid for it. I paid for it. I don't know what happened. Like, come on, just hold yourself accountable. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. So where does Team USA go from here? And is Italy a sneaky contender?
First, they're gonna win it. I'm gonna be honest. They're gonna win it. They're gonna win it. They play Canada. They're gonna beat Canada. I think this is gonna be really funny on Sunday if it drops and they
I
did
know
not
this
beat
is either going
Canada.
to be so good or it's going to blow up.
But they're gonna beat Canada. They're gonna beat Canada. I think they're gonna beat Canada by like 5 runs. Not gonna be like a complete blowout, but it's gonna be hey, they won pretty handedly. I think Canada's a fun team, and I have nothing but the most respect for that national team. Um, they're gonna play DR with Luis Severino if DR beats Korea. That's TBD. That game just started. They should beat up Luis Severino, right? Like they should beat him up. I think that's what's gonna happen. They're gonna beat him up, and then they're gonna go play the final. And one of Venezuela and Japan won't be even in the semifinals. I think there's a chance Japan gets knocked out before the semifinals. There's a chance they're facing like Yusei Kikuchi in the final, or Eduardo Rodriguez in the final. They're going to crush those guys. Joe Ryan's better than anyone that those teams are going to be able to throw
Right.
at that point of the tournament. So I think they're going to win. And for Team Italy, I think they're going to face Japan or Venezuela in the semifinal. I think they're going to beat Puerto Rico, which would be a pretty big upset, like on paper. But I think Puerto Rico, the insurance stuff, I just think they're not in the right spot to compete. Very impressed that they got past pool play, given all the insurance things. But I think Italy's got some sauce. I think they got the juice. I'm rocking with them. I like the team.
It's the espresso. Come on.
I'm gonna just leave that as a hint for a later question. But yeah, I love the espresso shots. I'm a big coffee guy. I love that.
Me too.
I love that. Big Vinny P too, 3 home run game, first one in WBC history. Get me right. That guy rocks.
Yeah. All right. So to finish it off, I have some fun bonus questions that I put together for you. So my first question is, who on the team do you think is going to have an unexpected impact this year?
Okay, so I think it's gonna be Randall Grichuk. I think Randall Grichuk's gonna be awesome.
Ooh,
He's
that's a
a
good
Yankee
one.
killer. He's gonna you just gotta tell him just pretend you're playing against the Yankees, I guess.
Yeah.
honest
Whatever
to God
works.
though, he's a good hitter against lefties. The outfield could use another bat in those scenarios, and he hits the ball hard. Maybe he collapses and just isn't good. I mean, I'm gonna also acknowledge the fact that he's 35 and you can just lose all your skills at 35 and be out of the league a year later. But I think he's a really nice bench piece. I like the pickup. So we wrote my guy Grichuk.
Yeah, it's a good answer. It'll be fun to watch this back,
Yeah.
towards the end of the season and see. We'll have to do another recap. We'll have to compare, see.
Yeah, we'll see how the
Follow up.
Grichuk take works for me.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So number 2, who's your favorite non-Judge Yankee?
So I wanted to really limit myself to guys who have never really been stars. I thought about Joe Musgrove, but he peaked a little too high for me to pick him. Jamison Tyne was a thought for me, but he was a Yankee, so I went against that. I'm gonna go with Mitch Keller. I have no idea why. I just love Mitch Keller. He's an innings eater. I respect innings eaters. In a world where guys don't pitch a lot, I respect the guys who take the ball every fifth day. Mitch Keller's super underappreciated. The guy is he's been a solid starter for the Pirates. He took an extension to stay in Pittsburgh. I think he's lived up to the extension. He's not been a net negative contract. I think a lot of fan bases see the idea of their team trading for him and go, no, I don't want him. He's not that good. And then it's and then half of the rotation gets hurt. And they're like, man, I really wish we had a guy who's going to put up a 3.90 ERA and take the ball every fifth day. Mitch Keller rocks. I like Mitch Keller. He's a rock, and he's a rotational rock in a world where you just don't have enough of those guys. And he's also not a star player, which is very important. I could not pick a guy who has ever actually been a star player.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. I really like that. And then my last one, if you were a professional baseball player, what would your walk-up song be?
So I mentioned the espresso thing was a hint at part of my answer. I was going to go with, for a very long time, I would have picked Sabrina Carpenter's Espresso. And the reason I say that is because I just think it's a good song.
I love that.
You want to get yourself loose. You can't put something too serious. At least I can't. I can't listen to heavy rock before doing a show or a broadcast. I will just trip up over my words. I have to listen to something that's kind of be like, this is nice. This is a good song. And I think I found something that's topped it. Give me, shout out Alyssa Liu, gold medalist. Give me Stateside. Let's rock with Stateside.
Oh.
Let's get that bumping. I convinced myself, and I convinced my girlfriend convinced me that I'd be into Zara Lawson, her music. I said I'd never would, that it wasn't for me. And now I can't stop. The song's stuck in my head. Her music's stuck in my head. And so I'm like, I think I'm rocking with it. I think like that, you get that bumping at the stadium when I'm about to walk up or even get on the mound. I'm going to be feeling good. Most importantly, I'm going to be feeling loose. And that's an important part of it, not like
Yeah.
getting my adrenaline up to 5,000, you know?
Yeah. That's a good one. I do like espresso. I think that would be really fun. So, yeah, I think this was a really productive episode, and I'm really excited to see what the team does in the next few weeks. Especially because, the World Baseball Classic, if US wins or not, doesn't matter. It's over next week. So those guys will kind of be returning to camp, the last week before regular season starts. So I think we'll really start to get a good idea of, how the team's going to look and everything. So I'm really excited. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. To everyone listening, subscribe, whatever way you can keep following up with this podcast. Look, there's a lot of people who it's hard to take the jump from being a sports fan to getting on a microphone and doing it. So the people who do it, show some love, show some appreciation. And yeah, it's really all I have to say. And go Yanks. Go Yanks.
Yeah. Like he said, you can follow Ryan and Fireside Yankees on X and Instagram, and you can subscribe to Fireside Yankees on YouTube. You can also follow me at mdestefano14 on X, Instagram, and TikTok, and be sure to subscribe to the Generational Run podcast on YouTube. That's it for tonight, and we will see you guys next time.